Do you want to have the ultimate control over your life? Welcome to Take Control with Whitney Wells, where we will explore all topics of life that we try and control, what this creates for you, and how to have successful relationships all while empowering yourself. Keep listening and let's have some fun. Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 34 of Take Control with Whitney Wells. I am so excited because I am coming to you from a new microphone. I decided to upgrade. I figured I was doing a lot of these episodes and I wanted the experience of listening to them to be more enjoyable. So here we are. So today we're going to talk about the number one way to be in control of your life. I love this concept. We're going to talk about chasing control. Now, I recently did a webinar on this topic, and I wanted to also bring it to the podcast so that you all could benefit from it as well. So I'm going to teach you what has been so beneficial for me, what has changed my life, and possibly offer you a different way of looking at things. Now, of course, with this concept, along with all the other teachings and tools and concepts that I bring to this podcast, always decide what works best for you. I'm just offering you possibly a different way. And for this episode, along with all my episodes, I just invite you to hear and think about these concepts with an open mind and see how they could benefit you if you wanted to apply them. So we're going to talk about the number one way to be in control of your life. But before I get started, I have a little fun fact about myself. Now, the reason why I like this concept so much and why it's so interesting to me is because I am a self-proclaimed control enthusiast. Now, what is that, right? What does that mean? Well, I like to be in control of my life, simply put. I like to be in control of the things that are happening around me. I like things to go a certain way. Now, I'm sure many people can relate to that. But I have to say that I was doing it all wrong, before learning about this simple shift that I'm going to teach you today. So I want you to think about these two questions and see if either are true for you. Do you ever feel frustrated with the world or people around you? Do you ever wish that they would change in some way so that you can feel better? Do you ever think they should or shouldn't act that way? Do you ever think I'm stressed because of my job or finances or kids or all the things that I have to get done? Do you ever think I wish they would change this one thing and I would feel better? Now, if so, this episode is for you, so keep listening. We're going to go over why we try to control. We're going to go over outward control. We're going to talk about the solution, the best part, right? Which is inward control. And then we're going to talk about how to implement inward control to benefit your life and relationships. And by the end of this, you will have the number one way to be fully in control, which is amazing, right? Feel better, which of course, why wouldn't we want to feel better? And live intentionally. No matter what is occurring around you, this is possible. I'm going to give you a simple shift that is so life-changing. Now, take a second to think about a specific time that you wanted someone to behave differently. Just think about that time. If they did what you wanted, if they changed in this way, right, that you wanted them to, if they did that thing that you wanted them to do, said those words, maybe stopped doing something, what feeling do you think you would feel? Now think about this feeling. If they changed how you wanted them to change, what feeling do you think you would feel? Now, during this episode, I just suggest applying what I'm teaching to your specific example okay? How could it benefit your life and you, your relationships? Now, let's start off with talking about why do we want to control? Well, the simple answer is to feel better. We want to escape feeling some negative feelings such as fear, worry, pain, sadness, hurt, frustration, to name a few. We don't want to feel negative feelings, so we try and control the things around us to feel better. Now, this control usually shows up in the form of outward control because we often believe that the things happening outside of us are the reasons we are feeling these negative feelings. For instance, my job makes me miserable, or I would be happy if my partner would do this thing or that thing, right? Or I'm frustrated because my kids won't listen. That's a big one for me. And therefore if we believe that the job, right, or your partner or your kids makes you feel some feeling, then we need to change or control the people or the things around us to escape these negative feelings, to ultimately feel better. That would be the solution, right? So we try and control outwards. We try and use outward control to feel better. But I'm going to show you why outward control doesn't work, why it doesn't need to work for you to feel better. And then I'm going to give you what actually does work. So first, let's take a closer look at outward control and what it is. Outward control is trying to control the things and the people around us. So for instance, other people's words or actions, factual things that exist in the world. Outward control is trying to control the circumstances in the world. So outward control is trying to control all the things that are happening around us, the people, the factual things that are occurring. Now, why do we turn our control outward to the world and the people around us? Well, basically because we were taught this. As young children, we are often taught that the things happening outside of us cause and create our feelings. So it makes complete sense, right? For an example, such as, they hurt your feelings by what they did or said. What you said made your friend feel sad. So of course, this makes sense because we are taught that other people's words and actions, or our words and actions, create other people's feelings, and their words and actions create our feelings. And we believe this to be true. Why wouldn't we, right? We were taught this as young children. So if we combine why we want to control in the first place, which is to feel better, right? And that we believe other people or things around us create our feelings, of course we want to turn our control outward to solve for this, to fix our pain, to feel better. This makes complete sense. It makes total sense that we turn our control outwards. But what are we actually creating for ourselves when we turn our control outwards? Let's take a look at that. Outward control creates disempowerment, and we oftentimes feel at the mercy of others. We are giving our power away to others or the outside world by putting them or the things around us in charge of our feelings. Outward control is so exhausting and oftentimes creates disconnection. In reality, trying to control other people, the outside world, is impossible. No matter how hard we try, people are going to behave how they want. So trying to control them is so exhausting because we are trying to do the impossible. And on top of that, controlling other people usually creates disconnection. For instance, if I'm trying to force my son or my husband to behave differently, this is not enjoyable for them or for me. We create that disconnection. So now we know why we want to control, which is to feel better, right? We went over what outward control is, which is trying to control the people and the world around us. And we went over why we so often turn our control outwards. Why we do this. Because we are taught this. And we looked at what it actually creates for us when we turn our control outwards to the people and the world around us. It creates exhaustion, disempowerment, and the feeling of helplessness. Now let's look at a real life example to see all of this in action, to see why outward control doesn't work and why it doesn't need to work. So my son, he is 5 years old. I talk about him a lot on this podcast. He's amazing, but he's also in virtual kindergarten right now, which the other day he was jumping around, not paying attention to the teacher, not listening to me. He, started to pull books off of his shelf. And needless to say, I was frustrated. I just thought it would be so much easier if he just sat still and listened. He should listen to the teacher. That's what I was thinking. Now, this is my story, and it involves a lot of facts and some thoughts and some feelings, right? Let's separate them out to see what's going on here. Now, the facts are, my son was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while his teacher was giving him instructions. Everything else in my story consists of thoughts and feelings. Now, it's important to separate these out. My thought about these facts is he should listen to the teacher. And my feeling is frustrated. So when I believe that my son's actions are creating my feeling of frustration, I would need his behavior to change in order to feel better. If we believe that other people or the world create our feelings, then the only way to feel better would be to change or control them. Right? So we often think outward control is the solution to feel better. But here is why outward control doesn't work. My thoughts create my feelings, not what my son does or doesn't do. What if this is true? This is what I talk about all the time on the podcast, right? And this is why outward control doesn't work. And it doesn't need to work. Now, if your brain is arguing with you right now, I invite you to just try this on. Your thoughts create your feelings, not anyone or anything else. Just try this on, and you can go right back to believing otherwise. But it can't hurt to explore this a little. Let's challenge what we were taught as children, right? Let's just challenge it. So what is the proof that my thoughts create my feelings and not the actions or the words of others? What is this proof? Let's explore. Well, I can have a different thought about the same facts and create a different feeling for myself. The facts are the same. I have my son, right? He was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while his teacher was giving him instructions. And I can have 2 different thoughts. My first thought, he should listen to the teacher. And this creates frustration. And then I can have another thought. He is 5 years old, and of course he doesn't want to sit still. And this creates the feeling of compassion within me. So you see, I can have a different thought about the same facts and create a different feeling, a different experience for myself. We can see in this example how the facts didn't change. He didn't change. What he did not change. Just my thoughts about the facts. And this creates a different feeling for me. So, this shows how my thoughts create my feelings. And not the facts. Not my son's behavior. Not the outside world. So if my son's behavior isn't creating my feelings, then trying to change or control my son's behavior wouldn't work to feel better because he is not the cause of my feelings in the first place. He is not the cause of my feelings in the first place. Let that sink in. My thoughts are the cause of my feelings. And therefore, I can feel better without trying to change or control him. Controlling his behavior doesn't need to work to feel better. As you see, I can feel compassion without his behavior changing. Now, this doesn't mean I don't parent him, but I can simply choose on purpose how I want to do it. I can decide to parent him from a place of compassion, love, understanding, and support if I choose to. Or from frustration. I am just deciding intentionally. Neither one is wrong. Just decide intentionally. Which leads me to the solution. I want to give you the way to be fully in control with inward control. So this simple shift from outward control to inward control is everything. When you shift your focus from outward to inward, it can be so beneficial for you. You are taking control. You are being your most powerful self. Now, why is this so beneficial? Well, you're going to stop chasing a false sense of control. To be in control, feel better, and show up intentionally. To enjoy your life and the people around you more. This simple shift focuses on what you can control, which is you. Inward control is turning your control inward on yourself. It's focusing on your thoughts and your feelings. This is where your power exists. I know I say this a lot on the podcast, but it's so beneficial to remind ourselves of this. You do not have control over others. They don't have control over you. You do not have control over the past, and we often do not have control over the things that happen outside of us in the world. But you do have all the control over your own thoughts and feelings, no matter what anyone says or does or what's happening around you in the outside world. This is the best news that I can give you. You have the power to focus on what thoughts serve you. You have the power to let go of thoughts that don't serve you. You have the power to create feelings intentionally and to have the experience that you choose to have, no matter what is occurring around you. You are so powerful when it comes to your thoughts and feelings and actions. Your experience is, you create your experience. That's where your power places. So by turning your control inward instead of outward, you are being your most powerful and most in control self. Let's look at how inward control looks when applied to the same example of my son in virtual kindergarten. So when I'm turning my control inward instead of outward, I'm focused on my thought. He should listen to the teacher. And I know that this thought, he should listen to the teacher, is creating my feeling of frustration, not what he is doing or not doing. When I make this shift to inward control, now I don't have to change or control him at all because he has never been the cause of my feelings. Instead, I can turn my control inward and decide intentionally what I want to think and feel on purpose about what is occurring around me. Now, it is important to know and remember that thoughts are not facts. And we can question them to see what we want to keep or not. We can try on new thoughts to have a different experience if we want to. Now, the facts in this story are my son was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of the bookshelf while his teacher was giving him instructions. And my thought is he should listen to the teacher. This thought is optional. You can apply inward control and decide for yourself what thoughts to focus on. So let's go back to that question I asked you earlier. If someone changed in some way, behaved how you wanted, did or said something or stopped doing something, how do you think you would feel? How are you wanting to feel? Whatever feeling this is, you can create this for yourself because you are in control of what thoughts you want to focus on. And here are some questions to help you create new believable thoughts, to help create a different feeling if you decide to. You want to question your thoughts to create this new experience for yourself. And these are some helpful questions for you. How could I be wrong about this thought? How is this perfect? What really matters to me? What am I making this mean? How are we all human and perfectly imperfect? You can loosen your grip on your original thought to see other possible experiences that you could have about the same facts. Now, just check in with yourself if the new thoughts that you're creating are believable to you. I recommend that they are believable in order for you to genuinely have that feeling, that new feeling that you want to have. And here are some examples. I'm going to give you some examples of some of my new believable thoughts about the same facts. Right? The fact is, my son was not sitting in a seat. He took 5 books off of his bookshelf while his teacher was giving him instructions. And some new believable thoughts to me are, of course he doesn't want to sit still. He is 5 years old. I don't always want to listen to others as well. I love him no matter what. And from these new thoughts, I create new feelings for myself, such as understanding, compassion, or love. I can decide intentionally. I can take that control and focus on which thought I want to focus on to have the feeling that I want to have. Now, you can always keep your original thought. Of course, this is always an option. But I just suggest doing it consciously and apply that inward control by choosing the thought and feeling on purpose. Just decide intentionally and know it's coming from your thought, right? Your feeling that you're having is coming from your thought. Now, it is so important to know that the purpose and goal is not to always feel better or be happy about something. The goal and purpose is to decide intentionally, to apply that inward control, to be deliberate. I can choose to feel frustrated on purpose and know it's coming from my thought. He should listen to the teacher. And if I decide to keep this thought and feeling, I'm just doing so intentionally. That is completely an option. So let's recap how to apply inward control. Number 1, take responsibility for your own feelings. You create your feelings. No one and nothing else can do this. Number 2, have awareness of what thoughts are creating your feelings. Be the watcher of your thoughts and see how you feel when you think them. And number 3, decide on purpose. Decide on purpose which thoughts you want to think. You are in control of your experience, and you can decide intentionally. So how can turning your control inward on your thoughts and feelings benefit your life and relationships? You are not trying to make others behave in certain ways in order to feel better, because you are in control of your feelings, not them. You are owning what you are responsible for, your feelings, and not putting that responsibility on anyone else. This is so empowering and freeing. You are energizing yourself instead of exhausting yourself by focusing on what you have control over, yourself. Because as we discussed, it's impossible to control others, so it's exhausting to try. And no matter what is occurring around you, you can have any experience that you want to. This is control at its highest level. Being able to have any experience that you choose. You are not at the effect of others or the outside world. You are in the driver's seat. So, to sum it all up, outward control, it weakens you. You're giving your power away. It is impossible to obtain and create. And it creates disconnection, right? When we try to control others, we're disconnecting ourselves from them. So I suggest let other people be who they are. Turn your control inward to stop the suffering you are creating for yourself. When you turn your control inward, you empower yourself and control what you actually have control over, which is yourself. You open up the opportunity to create connection instead of disconnection, both with yourself and others. You live intentionally by deciding on purpose how you want to think, how you want to feel, how you want to act, to have the experience that you want to have. So try it out. Turn your control inward instead of outward. Be your most in control, most powerful self. I highly recommend it. Thank you so much for listening. And if you want any free stuff, right? Free trainings. I have the 3 steps for a happy relationship guide. You can go grab those at whitneywellscoaching.com. And most importantly, if you want free coaching. Now, this podcast is great information, right? It teaches you, it gives you some tools, but when it comes to applying it, that's where the coaching comes in. So if you want to actively apply it rather than passively learn, I suggest scheduling a 20-minute free coaching session with me, and we can solve any problem that you have right now. All right, thanks so much. See you next time. Do you want to explore these topics further? Are you ready to live the life that you want to live on purpose while controlling what you have control over? I would love to be your life coach. If you are interested, simply head over to whitneywellscoaching.com and book an appointment with me today. I can't wait to work with you.